Everyone. In this video, we are going to see how to install IBM Spectrum Scale CSI driver. I am using a plain Kubernetes cluster on which I would be deploying the CSI driver, and here is my cluster configuration. I have a 4-node Kubernetes cluster, sroute 1, 2, 3, and 4, where sroute 1 is the master node, whereas other 3 are the worker nodes. On the right hand side window, I have information about the Spectrum Scale cluster. Spectrum Scale is already installed and set up on this cluster. Spectrum Scale is also a 4-node cluster starting with sroute 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have a Spectrum Scale client installed on sroute 2, 3, 4, which are also part of the Kubernetes cluster. So this is a prerequisite that we have set up already. It is required that Spectrum Scale client be installed on Kubernetes worker nodes where your application pods will be running. Now let's get started with the installation of CSI driver. If you look at the Spectrum Scale Knowledge Center for CSI driver, you would see the instructions for deploying the operator and installing the driver using operator. There are some manifest files that you would need to download from the URLs given over here. I have already downloaded those manifest files here, and I am just going to apply those. So first we are creating a namespace which is called IBM Spectrum Scale CSI driver, and then we'll create the operator. No changes are needed in these files as you would download them from the internet as given on Knowledge Center. Now you should be able to see that the operator is up and running. So here we can see that IBM Spectrum Scale CSI operator and a deployment object is being spawned. And let's wait for it to get in ready state. Okay, now you can see both of them are in ready state. Now the operator is installed on your Kubernetes cluster and you are ready to install and deploy the CSI driver. But there are some prerequisites that must be met before installing the CSI driver. First of all, a primary file system has to be created and mounted on all the worker nodes. So let's check the file system information on the Spectrum Scale cluster. So FS1 is my file system whose mount point is IBM FS1. And it is mounted on all 4 nodes of the Spectrum Scale cluster. The other prerequisite is that GUI should be up and running and a user should be created with CSI admin role. Now my sroute 5 is my GUI node. So we can see that the GUI is up and running. Let's check if we have the appropriate user created. So I have a user with name CSI admin and group as CSI admin that is created, and it is an active user. So this is the user that we are going to use from our CSI driver to communicate to the Spectrum Scale cluster. Let's get back to Kubernetes and start installing the driver. Again, just a view of the knowledge center. Once the operator is deployed, if you go to phase 2, there is a link given for a CR or custom resource file. This is the CSI driver custom resource for IBM Spectrum Scale, where you can configure the Spectrum Scale parameters and all. Again, I have it downloaded here, which we will use. But before that, we need to create a secret, a Kubernetes secret, which consists of GUI credentials. For example, here is my Kubernetes secret, and all I need to give here are the username and password in the base64 encoded form. The name we have chosen here is the GUI secret. Uh, there are ways to find out base64 encoded name. One of the simplest way is what I will show here. So this is the base64 encoded value of the username CSI admin that I have used over here. Similarly, I have used a base64 encoded value for the password as well. So my GUI secret manifest file is ready. Now I am going to apply this secret. Remember to use the namespace that we had created. So the GUI secret is created, and now we are ready to configure the custom resource YAML file. Now let's look at what is configurable here. So the first parameter that you need to deal with is the scale host path. It is the file system mount path. As we had seen before, our file system mount path was IBM FS1. A few more information that is needed. We need the cluster ID of the Spectrum Scale cluster to be specified here. Let's check that on the scale cluster. Okay, this is the cluster ID. The name of the secret, we had given GUI secret as the name. In this demo, we are not using secure SSL mode, so let it be false. And then we need to set the primary file system and primary file set information. Primary file system or primary file set is a file set which links to all the PVCs that are dynamically created by Spectrum Scale CSI driver. So all the PVCs ultimately link to this primary file set, whereas the actual data may reside on other file system or elsewhere. So this primary file system is the file system which we had created and mounted on all worker nodes. So this is our FS1, and primary file set can be any name. This file set, if it doesn't exist, the CSI driver will create it. So let's give a name CSI fset. Specify your GUI host. In our case, it is sroute 5. Okay, so that is the minimal configuration that we need at this time, and with that we are ready to deploy the CSI driver. All right, so the driver is created. Let's see if there is a way to verify it. So we'll check for pod daemon set and stateful sets. So CSI driver um, creates a daemon set that runs on all the worker nodes and some stateful sets that runs attacher and provisioner sidecar containers, and they in turn spawn the pods. So let's look at those resources. So as we can see, the pods are spawning and they are coming into running state. The stateful sets are already up. Attacher and provisioner are already up. Daemon set is already up and pods are also starting to come up. As you can see now, all the pods are in running state. These are the pods that are spawned by daemon set. So if we do Alright, so I gave wide just to see on which nodes these pods are running. So if you see these pods which are spawned by daemon set, they are running on S route 3, 4 and 2. They are not running on one. One is our master node. So they are running on all the worker nodes. Whereas attacher is running on 4 and provisioner is running on 2 as single instances. And all of them are in running state. So this is your CSI driver successfully initialized and deployed onto a Kubernetes cluster, and you are now ready to create your persistent volumes dynamically or statically and start using them. Thank you.